Hi, this is Liam O'Gogan here. It's Sunday, the 15th of January 2023. It's just 13:50. So today, this is Sunday. Last Friday, I was driving a short distance, just around 3 o'clock on Friday, and I turned on the radio. Sometimes I turned on the radio just to listen to what's going on, and I tuned into the Joe Dufty Liveline program for a period when I was traveling, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And the topic for the day seemed to be, at least that part of it seemed to be, about the protests against immigration that were happening around Dublin. So I listened again. I listened really to inform myself. I'm this the national broadcaster, and I expected that I would have an impartial presentation of differing views and hopefully inform myself. So suddenly, I suppose, what I just want to show you is I then ended up listening to the period into the program, you'll see, and again, just a couple of things to explain. I'm experimenting with stuff here. I'm actually recording the video of myself on an iPad while also using another iPad to demonstrate the true screen capture, what I want to show you. Again, if you see, I'm using a Bluetooth mouse in order that you can I can use the cursor to demonstrate or to draw your attention to specific areas. So in this program, we start at 1 hour and 9 minutes and 43 seconds. So I just want you to play a short section. This is only going to last maybe a minute and a half. I'd ask you to draw your attention to this.
For information on available supports
so we're just coming through the
advice,
end of the
visit
ads,
gov.ie
going into what I understand would be the last section of the
brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
And again, just to show you, so this shows we're 1 hour, 9 minutes and 53 seconds into a program that lasts until 1:17:49, something around that. Okay, so just sort of 7-minute segment here, last segment of the program.
Talk to Joe on 0818 715 815.
Malachy Steenson. Malachy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe.
I heard you in the last half hour you protested to RTE that you should have the right to reply, and they've decided you should. What's your point, please, Malachy?
Well, Joe, twice during this segment you have referred to me indirectly.
How?
Because you've said that the protests in East Wall are being led by people, and one of the people is somebody who stood in an election and only got just over 200 votes. You said that twice.
And is that you? Is that you?
Well, you know, Joe, that you're referring to me because you do this every time I'm on your programme. Now, let me have the opportunity to actually reply.
Get the abuse out of the way. Off you go.
Where's the abuse?
Off you go.
That's a factual statement, Joe.
I've been told to give you the right reply. 4 minutes. Off you go. Just don't libel anybody. Are you the leader of the protests in East Wall?
I am one of the organisers, Joe. I'm one of the committee of people who since last November... Are you going to let me speak, Joe?
Did you stand for election and get 217 votes?
Are you going to let me speak?
Answer the question.
Uninterrupted.
Well, you did. Go ahead. I'm leaving. I'm leaving this. Malachy, speak.
Goodbye, Joe. Thank you.
Speak. You're welcome to speak. Okay. Ahmed. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, would people please know okay. Anyway, I'll let people judge whatever way they want to judge it. My problems are the least of problems compared to what people are going through in this country, and indeed far afield. Ahmed, what would...
Okay, that took from, I think it was about 1 hour and 1 minute and 1 hour and 10 minutes until 11:33. So it's a little over a minute and a half. Now, I don't know Michael Steenson's name. I didn't at the time. I didn't know who the guy was at all. I just heard this, and I suppose I was. Why should I be shocked? But I was. I just said. So I said to him, "This is crazy. This is wrong." And also, if you just listen to the intonation in what Joe Duffy says, sorry, just I'm gonna go back, move back here a little. Again, I keep confusing myself over, so I just got to move the timeline back a little. Let me just listen to Joe.
I'll let people judge whatever way they want to judge it. My problems are the least of problems compared to what people are going through in this country.
So it's clear even from Joe Dufty that he was taken aback at the end of the call. And, he makes us say that his problems are the least of the problems, etc. So I want to approach this from the point of view of what is intended to be under the public broadcasting standards that are expected and are referred to in the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland and on RTE's own website, the concept of impartiality and professionalism. So what I experienced here was a seriously dysfunctional exposition of impartial presentation. So again, I took time I said, okay, well, I had to go somewhere, so I just switched off at that time. So I didn't hear the last part of the programme. Just to note again that this was at 11:28. It goes on to 11:17. So only since then have I been able to go back, and I'll speak about that, what happened, how I reviewed it later. But just towards the end of the segment, right? What he brought in then, he kept talking to a couple of people that because I'd listened to the programme, he obviously had them online over the break, and he was able to just continue with the couple of people he spoke to. But this is how he
allowed to learn and know these people, and create a community and integrate them in their community.
This woman gets a chance
sit with them, eat with them,
finish off.
And that's what we are here for, living. A peaceful world.
So he's closing off.
Okay, just to finish, Malachy Steenson has been on this programme many times when he called in before. He called in, he emailed today, and he got on, and he was the one who hung up, not me. Back on Monday.
So here's Joe Dufty adjudicating on his own ineptitude and unprofessional performance by blaming Malachy Steenson, whoever he was, I didn't know at the time, for leaving the call. He did say, Joe Dufty states here, that Malachy Steenson emailed into the programme and was given the right. So I want to go back to what was Malachy, according to this earlier section, what was actually said at the start.
Talk to Joe on 0818 715 815.
Malachy Steenson. Malachy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe.
I heard you in the last half hour you protested to RTE that you should have the right to reply, and they've decided you should. What's your...
No. So we now know from this Malachy Steenson had emailed into RTE, according to Joe Dufty. Presumably some negotiation had taken place, and someone in RTE had the position of power and authority to determine that this person, Malachy Steenson, would be facilitated by expressing their view on Liveline. So this is not something that Joe Dufty decided to do. Joe Dufty was told by somebody. Now again, Joe Dufty, I think, earns, I would have seen reports in the region of 400,000 and more sums of money. So we're not talking about some mid-range civil service pay. We're not talking about some new type of broadcast. We're talking about one of the highest paid broadcaster, certainly in the public service broadcasting sphere, certainly in Ireland. And therefore the level of expectation from years of experience would be that we'd be delivering, according to the BAI standards, with impartiality and professionalism. So we've now established that Joe Dufty had been instructed this guy is to be allowed on. So let me just see what he says next.
Please,
well, Joe, twice during this segment you have referred to me indirectly.
How?
Because you've said that...
Now, I have no idea what happened on earlier in the programme. I wasn't around for that, and that's not really concerns me. This guy says that he was referred to in a way which could have identified him. And Joe Dufty then plays around with the idea of asking, to put some clarity on that. And it appears to clear to Joe Dufty knows exactly who he is.
Protests in East Wall are being led by people, and one of the people is somebody who stood in an election and only got just over 200 votes. You said that twice.
And is that you? Is that you?
Well, you know, Joe, that you're referring to me because you do this every time I'm on your programme.
Okay, so Malachy Steenson says you do this every time I'm on your programme. So therefore, these guys have history. There's no question about it. Joe Duffy knows who Malachy Steenson is, something I didn't know. And obviously Malachy Steenson has had interaction before with them. So, I don't know what Joe Duffy's playing at here in relation to that. Anyway, let's continue.
Now, let me have the opportunity to
Go,
actually reply.
get the abuse out of the way.
No, he says, I'll just play that just back again, what he actually says. Steenson.
We have the opportunity
Go,
to actually reply.
So Steenson says, let me have the opportunity to actually reply. Okay? So listen to what Joe Duffy says.
Get the abuse out of the way. Off you go.
Now, Joe Duffy's response to this is, get the abuse out of the way, off you go. Now please listen to the, and certainly for me interpreting the sardonic nature and the put down nature of how Joe Duffy spoke to him there. Remember, I'm a listener, I'm just viewing this stuff, I have no idea what's going on here, but straight away I'm saying, Joe Duffy's telling me this guy is, a low grade something or other. He's putting him down.
The abuse out of the way, off you go.
Where's the abuse?
Off you go.
That's a fact.
So then Malachy Steenson said, well, where's the abuse? And he said, off you go, listen to the voice, right?
I've been told to give you the right reply. 4 minutes, off you go.
I've been told to give you the right to reply. 4 minutes, off you go. So now we should be able to say, look at when I'm here. I'm at 10 minutes 43. I've got to go to 17 minutes. So it's in the last segment of the program. So it's not unreasonable to assume that basically this is the contribution that has been negotiated on behalf of Michael Steenson with somebody in authority in RTE, and Joe Duffy should be giving him the space to speak for 4 minutes. That's 4 minutes, right? Now, we've already spent almost a minute pussyfooting around, and Joe Duffy setting the tenor for this conversation, right?
Just don't libel anybody.
And the next thing he says is, before the guy even starts to speak, just don't libel anybody, okay? Now, I've listened to lots of programs and all the rest of them. It's not normal. Certainly, I don't. But anybody else I listen on that day, and normally I don't hear Joe Duffy telling people when they come on, don't libel anybody. So immediately I'm led as the uninformed member of the public, a taxpayer and a licence payer, which pays Joe Duffy's wages. And also, this is the public service broadcast by the national broadcaster. I'm led to believe that this guy in some way is likely to libel somebody else on the Joe Duffy show, which understandably would leave RTE in a difficult legal situation if they had let this dangerous personality on the radio. Now, I have no idea who this guy is at this point in time, but I'm presuming that Joe Duffy, because he has history with him, he must believe that this guy would not understand or respect the laws of defamation or libel in Ireland. So maybe he is no one with no understanding or skill or knowledge or insight, and therefore must be informed in advance by Joe Duffy, who's not doing this to anybody else, by the way, but he's picking out this guy. So let's continue.
You're the leader of the protests in East Wall.
I am one of the organisers.
Sorry, this is Joe Duffy allowing him to speak. And he starts by asking him a question, are you? Now, you're supposed to give him 4 minutes to speak.
Joe, I'm one of the committee of people who since last November... You can only let me speak, Joe.
Did you stand for...
So yet again, he's cross-examining somebody before the guy's had a chance to say anything. All right? Oh, let's see.
Election get 217 votes.
So again, we're now putting the guy down by saying you're a nobody, you get 217 votes. So this is just landscaping out what I'm supposed to listen to. I'm just a guy sitting in a car, passing a bit of time, listening to my taxpayer paid and license payer paid public service broadcast. And I'm expecting professional performance by the presenter, and I'm expecting impartiality as a basic standard of communication and professionalism.
To let me speak.
Answer the
uninterrupted.
question. Well, you did. Go ahead.
So then Joe answers his own question. You did stand. So in other words, he wasn't interested in what your man was going to say. And
I'm leaving this.
Malachy, to speak. Goodbye, Joe. Thank you.
Speak. You're welcome to speak. Okay. Ahmed.
So it's clear then Joe got flustered because Joe didn't expect this just to end like that. And as I've showed you somewhat earlier, towards the end of the event, a couple of minutes later, after filling in a bit of time, he just ends up then with this interesting. Joe felt the need to address this.
Here for living. A beautiful world. Yeah.
Okay, just to finish, Malachy Steenson has been on this programme many times when he called in before. He called in, he emailed today, and he got on, and he was the one who hung up, not me. Back on Monday.
Okay, so now Joe decides to come back. So it appears to me that he says, God, I better say something about this, because even on radio, it just stood out blatantly. Now, I at this stage had left the event. I mean, I was going somewhere, so I'd arrived, and I just thought when he said, I'll leave it to people to judge. So I am judging. I'm judging that this is unacceptable. I mean, I'm a viewer, a listener, and I feel I should have been entitled to the mantra of the Irish Independent: before you make up your mind, open it. So I should be entitled to hear what this guy had to say. There's no question in my mind, like the haranguing that he experienced from the interviewer, Joe Duffy. Joe Duffy wasn't going to allow him to speak. He just going to cut across him. Now, Joe Duffy, it appears to me, was mandated from above, whatever that means. Not Joe Duffy. Joe Duffy, it appears, wouldn't have allowed this guy go on, but he was mandated to give the guy I was told to give you 4 minutes, on it. And your man, he didn't even allow him to speak. And then he blames him for having left the conversation. In my view, Malachy Steenson, at this stage, I don't know one about the guy, was totally right in leaving. So and I said to myself, this is wrong. But I mean, there's a million wrongs. What should you do about it? Do you just want to be seen as another of the serial complainers? And then I'd been watching a series on Amazon Prime called Cold Case the other night, and there was an episode, maybe series 4 or 5, but some young fellow who was wrongfully found or determined guilty of a murder he hadn't committed. But there was he was a very bright person, but he referred to a quotation from Edmund Burke, which most of us in Ireland should be aware of, and it's attributed to many other people, that for evil to triumph, all it takes is for good men to remain silent. And I suppose in light of that particular thing, it just came back up my mind again. And I feel that is this situation. I said, I could just let this pass. Sure, nobody's going to do anything about Joe Duffy anyway. I mean, Joe Duffy represents, in fact, if you listen to his voice during that, he spoke as a guy who's untouchable. I can do what I want. No one's going to do anything about me at all. And if you complain, nobody's going to do anything anyway. And I said, so what? I don't know, Malachy Steenson. The issue is not the most burning issue in my life right now. Maybe another day. Maybe if someone is protesting outside my house or whatever. But I didn't get the chance. And most importantly, my complaint here is not necessarily on behalf of Michael Steenson. That's his issue or whatever. But my complaint is as a listener to RTE, as a taxpayer listener and someone who's paying for this service and paying Joe Duffy's wages. I have a right that he doesn't behave like that, because he certainly doesn't represent my view of how people should be dealt with. So the first thing I'd said, I'd look it up. I said, I'll play it back on playback later. So I just want you to watch what I've done. So again, I'm using my iPad. This iPad here, I'm doing a screen recording on. This one here, I'm going to try and fold back in and a post edit into a picture-in-picture somewhat, so you can see it's a real person saying this. So I went into this. Now, you're going to be looking at a sideways view of this because the RTE player app runs in portrait, but it's irrelevant. This is the section on Liveline. I know you might be looking at it orthogonally, but as a fella said, it's like arguing from the horizontal to the perpendicular. Asylum seekers protest. So I had gone through this, and I just noticed this program showed it said 1 minute and 3 seconds. So there's only 18 seconds left. So I said I'd play it, and I knew it was near the end. And so I'll just play you back the last 18 seconds of what's on the player.
But the basic human qualities are the same, and they are the same as the people of protesting.
So I remember hearing this.
Okay, stay with us. Joe at RTE.ie. I'll be back in a sec. I'll be back. I promise I'm way over. Joe at RTE.ie.
Talk to Joe on 0818 715 815.
So that was it. That's the end of the playback. So this experience that I had was now, it disappeared on the RTE radio app that I have on my iPhone, my iPad, or whatever. It's gone. That section is gone. And I said, what's going on here? Now, look, I don't know why it's gone. I don't know how you can purport to have a playback of a program where you cut off a segment at the end. I mean, if the program is running too long, you should either cut the program or else extend the replay. Otherwise, you're cutting off what could be an essential element of a program, but it's certainly not a true and accurate record of what actually happened. So, look, I played around for quite a while, and then through watching this on Chrome, I think actually it might still be on Chrome. I'm not sure where I got this on. No, it wasn't on Chrome. Sorry, let's see. Give me go back to my. I'm just popping around here. This is so. I found this on. If I went through the Chrome browser on my iPhone, and I put in the program date, and I got what you're looking at here. I've got the whole section. So this last section, which had been cut off from the playback, is now including this. So that's the only way I've been able to recapture this information. So there's a couple things. I don't know how far down the conspiracy rabbit hole I need to go down now. I don't know why this isn't on the RTE player app. I don't know. The RTE radio app. It certainly isn't on it. I believe it should be on it, or else I don't know what sort of authenticity such an app has if they don't have proper playbacks. And if their program segments are too long, they don't fit into some pre-designated period, then that's another issue. So, okay, so then what I want to do is I just decided I was going to look up. Now, at this stage, by the way, to be fair, I find out who's this guy, Malachi Steenson. And I've done some various bits of research on him, and he appears in lots of places, and he's certainly an outspoken person in his views, etc. But the part I'm interested in is, it says here on a website for Canning Landy solicitors and company solicitors, whoever they are. Anyway, as in many solicitors, it talks about who these people are. So this guy, Malachi Steenson, I'll just zoom in here, says he qualified as a solicitor. He holds an honours degree in law from University in London, a master's degrees in criminology from the same university. This is either true or false. I have no idea. Malachi is also a qualified mediator and mediation, but I have no reason to believe that it's not true. But sorry, the relevance of me pointing out who he is Malachi Steenson, therefore, we said, is a solicitor. So if anybody was likely to know what the meaning of libel is and the implications of defamation, both for himself if he expressed defamation, or RTE if it published it, would at least understand what he was getting into. When Joe Dufty said, as I pointed earlier, in a way that I haven't heard him speak to other people, make sure you don't libel. And I'm thinking, what was that about? I just think this is really unacceptable. Somebody in RTE, and let me just move on to something else because this part was relevant. Yeah, I decided, do I have the time for this? Do I have the energy for it? Do I have the inclination? And why should I bother? Well, I'll tell you why I should bother, because I think it's wrong. I found what Joe Dufty did was fundamentally offensive to me, the listener. It was offensive to the idea that I might live in a democracy. It was offensive to the idea of professionalism and impartiality. So I go on to making a complaint in RTE. So I'm just going to take you through the section on complaints. Just go into about RTE section complaints. So it talks about a complaints process under the Broadcasting Act 2009. So I'm using my cursor here. Just follow the cursor on the screen here. To see what I'm looking at, okay? So it talks about you can make a complaint within 30 days after the event. So essentially, if I want to make a complaint, I have 30 days from last Friday to lodge a complaint, okay? And from reading through this stuff, and from previously having some experience of this, a really bad experience, by the way, really unsatisfactory experience, of making processing a previous complaint back in 2012 of the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland. However, if you want to make one, this is important. If any person wishes to make a formal complaint about a broadcast is required to comply with certain conditions to facilitate the broadcaster in processing the complaint. So for starters, this is going to take a bit of body of work. So I'm just a guy driving along, have a really unsatisfactory experience, and immediately I'm finding friction in terms of me trying to say, look, I want a better service. This is not good enough. So immediately I'm meeting obstruction. Immediately I'm requiring to be literate in the internet, to be competent, to be able to analyze documents, to put together documentation, etc. This is not made for ease of me, the user, the usability experience. Not at all. Okay, so then it moves on to tell RTE what you think, and it's really here, RTE is listening. So what I've decided is to make this little video because there's a couple of things. There's the visual expression, the oral expression, and the textual expression. And it's going to take a period of time if I decide to make a formal complaint. But somewhere in here, it talks about, just this line here. If you wish to avail of this, we welcome this feedback. We circulate it weekly to senior management as it provides a direct and invaluable insight into the views of our audience. So this is in relation to one of the paths that's available to everybody, you, me, anybody else, to feedback to RTE. So at this point, this exercise that I'm is going on this particular thread. So it's based on the idea that this feedback would be circulated to senior management on a weekly basis to provide direct and valuable insight into the views of our audience. If you wish to avail of this process, set out your views, senior management, please use the following email address, feedback@rte.ie. So that's what I'm going to do. So what my intention is, and the only thing, if I'm going to do something, is I want to try and learn something. So part of this is about learning to create video, trying to work with me being on screen simply so that you can see that it's a real person who's doing it as against some robot. And I'm just trying to set up an environment in which I can do this correctly, and also tie this in with a screen capture using screen recorder on my iPad, and the use of a Bluetooth wireless mouse as a cursor. Okay, so that's really what I'm trying to do. So the other thing is, I just wanted, so further on down, I realized that in order to make a formal complaint, I'm going to have to go through stuff in detail, because what'll I just see? Because first thing, for it to be what constitutes a valid complaint, and the danger here is that somebody would see this as vexatious and frivolous. This is not vexatious and frivolous, nor is it ever intended to be. This is intended because we, the people, deserve a better service. And unless we demand it, we're never going to get it. That's one thing for absolute sure. And the less we demand it and the worse it gets, the worse our whole life experience, including Joe Duffy's, is going to be. But it basically is quite demanding in terms of me to be very specific about this. A broadcaster is not in a position to address general and unspecified complaints. Can it be expected to second guess what exact breach of the code the complainant wishes to cite? So it will require me to find a specific section of the broadcasting code that Joe Duffy's behaviour, I'm talking about Joe Duffy's professional misbehaviour, has breached. But I just thought this was interesting that, let's see, RTE they're not going to deal with things that are considered to be frivolous or vexatious. So again, in this feedback to you people at senior management, just look again at the friction and impedance that's been placed all the time in the way of the user experience. Okay. There's something here. Just bear with me as I go through this, because this is extempore per se, and there's something here about what I think the standards that I would be entitled to expect. I just want to take this section here. See that just bloated into this section here. Anything which may reasonably be regarded as causing harm or offence, or as likely to promote or incite to crime, or as tending to undermine the authority state, is not broadcast. So this is obviously part of the standards and expectations. So it appears from what Joe Duffy said, that Malachy Steenson emailed into RTE, there was a consideration within a senior level in RTE, presumably senior enough to mandate to Joe Duffy, highly paid Joe Duffy, to instruct him, to allow Malachy Steenson to have 4 minutes of a presentation of his perspective on public service radio through Liveline. Therefore, I have to presume that whoever made the decision to allow Malachy Steenson on had been satisfied that he was not going to he wasn't likely to fall foul of this, reasonably regarded as causing harm or offence, or likely to incite crime or commit crime. So this issue of somebody had already decided that Malachy Steenson was safe in whatever way to go on. So the requirement for Joe Duffy to come in and start telling Malachy Steenson, who, unless he's a fool, must know that he's solicitor, is condescending, haranguing, to say the least. Okay. Now the other thing is, this other part, RTE, this was section. RTE is obliged under Section 39 of the Act to ensure that all news broadcast is reported and presented in an objective and impartial manner without any expression of the broadcaster's own views. Now, please, folks, just listen back to the start of the video. That's the great thing. A reusable learning object's just scrubbed back through the time and listen to Joe Duffy's language, his interventions, his haranguing, his condescending put-down approach to this guy who I didn't know at the time. And this is irrespective of who this guy is. We either decide to have a broadcasting process which allows people to have differing views and conflict within the law, understandably within the law, which someone down here had obviously thought about. This is not just a guy ringing in on the program. He had been filtered through a senior somebody in RTE, and he has been on RTE on Joe Duffy a number of times before. So he's not an unknown quantity. He's been allowed on. And I have a right who expect that RTE will ensure that the broadcast that I listened to was presented in an objective and impartial manner without any expression of the broadcaster's own views. Now, Joe Duffy expressed his views quite clearly. He prevented this guy ever getting off the ground. I have no idea whether what this guy said would have been interesting, provocative, insulting, challenging, logical, argumentative, whatever it is, I don't know. I was prevented from finding out by Joe Duffy. So I'm publishing this video primarily as, again, going back to, and I have to just, I'm doing this on the basis that you have written on your website, senior management, that you, RTE, is listening. I'm saying you're welcoming this feedback, which is in video format for me. So you might say, why isn't this written as an essay? And it's not written. It's written in the same type of medium, an oral, audio and visual medium in which you guys make all your money. And you spend a lot of public taxpayers' money doing this. And I have an expectation. So what do I want to see happen? Firstly, I want the question addressed as why that last segment was not included in the RT player. I want an explanation for that, okay? The second thing, I want Joe Duffy's professional misbehaviour. I'm like, Joe Duffy, the person, it doesn't matter. That doesn't interest me. It interests me he's holding like a referee in a football pitch. He's got a role. He's got the role of presenter. I believe he has let the role down. He has let down the organisation. He has let down the taxpayer. He has let me down. So the question is, I don't even know if Joe Duffy has an inbuilt cognitive misunderstanding. Is he so delusional about what his behaviour is that he can't hear? I would have thought that in a normal organisation with a person of a lower level or whatever, that some person would go into some sort of retraining process. But there has to be consequences for this. I mean, a listener of Joe Duffy, certainly for me, I get the impression that nobody's going to do anything about Joe Duffy. Joe Duffy's too big to fail. Nobody cares. And this is not about Joe Duffy. It's not about Malachy Steenson. But if this is the standard, like if this had happened, if we'd seen this on a Russian radio station talking about the Ukraine war, we'd say these people are terrible and it's all these propaganda, nobody's allowed to speak. This is happening in our country. It's not good enough. I don't want this to happen. I'm not interested in whether Joe Duffy walks over the coals. I'm interested in that the behaviour changes. For that to happen, I think there has to be a measurable and recognised a consequence for this misconduct. No, if you guys at the top of the ladder can't recognise this as a misconduct, we obviously have a much bigger problem, and that may or may not be the case. However, I must go through the steps of asking you to do the right thing. Firstly, my sense is that, in football terms, I think this bringing the game into disrepute would lead him to, whether by these are managers, they could be Alex Ferguson, they could be, these guys are put to the sideline, they're not allowed 10 matches, footballers are suspended for a number of matches. I would think it's completely proper that Joe Duffy might be suspended from his programme for a week. And actually, everybody should be told that he's suspended and why he's suspended. And then when he comes back, that period should be used in sending him to some sort of retraining around professional standards and impartiality. Whether he's beyond moderating and reconstituting himself in a way which is professional and reasonable and impartial, I don't know. But I can say if you don't do anything, then what will happen is things will just get worse. That's what they'll do. So anyway, that's my contribution. That's my morsel of public service of my kind. Going back to Edmund Burke, all it takes for evil to triumph is that good men remain silent. This is in no way any condemnation, consideration, or anything about who Malachi Steenson is, what he stands for, or whatever. My only relevance in pointing out that Malachi Steenson is on the internet as a solicitor. I have no personal dealings with him. He's referred to as solicitor. Nobody said he wasn't a solicitor. Nobody said he wasn't qualified. Nobody, I don't know, whatever qualification you got. I don't know anything about the university he's studying, etc. I have no reason to doubt the University of London. I presume it's a real university. I have no reason to doubt what he says. But I do think it's quite reasonable to state that such a person would understand the meaning of libel. And I have to believe that if somebody in RTE put him on the radio, having negotiated this through an email, that somebody had gone through this consideration, this is important, they'd gone through the consideration of if it was going to be reasonably regarded as causing harm of offence or likely to incite or to commit a crime, which libel would be in that situation, then libel might be, a defamation would be a civil offence, I accept that. But he wouldn't have been put on. So once he was passed through to Joe Duffy, and Joe Duffy was mandated to let him on, then he should have let him on, and he should have treated him impartially. But his behaviour, his conduct, it was most condescending. And I think we can do better, and I expect you, senior management in RTE, to deal with this with authenticity and with integrity. Thank you.